And with that, Doctor, I want to go ahead and ask you here in English. I want to start with the viewer question that we received. And this one comes from Jim, who asks how COVID-19 compares to the flu and pneumonia. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and thank you, Jim, for that question. And I would like to start by saying that on Saturday, we were vaccinating in Westwood. We vaccinated close to 45 people on an event that was celebrating the Cinco de Mayo. So we were vaccinating there. And on Sunday morning, I woke up feeling terrible. I had body aches, a little bit of sore throat, congestion. And the first thing that came to my mind is, oh, I caught COVID now. And I think that this is something that happens to a lot of us in these days, that any kind of upper respiratory symptoms, we try to relate them to COVID, because as these are it's a reaction of our body to a foreign object or foreign being as a bacteria or as a virus. We will have the same symptoms on our nose, our throat, our lungs, and the immune response will give the same signs and symptoms on our body. So we will feel all of these things at the same time. So I wrote a list of 6 or 7 questions that we should try to ask to try to find out if this is COVID or something else. So maybe I'll try to answer the question by saying, answer these questions to yourself. Number 1, what is your temperature? So if you have a high fever, you can have or the flu or strep throat, pneumonia, or COVID, but the common cold will usually not produce a fever. Just remember that COVID-19, the fever will take some days to start. You start to feel bad before you have a fever. But if you were doubting there, it's a good idea to get tested. The second question is, are you sore? Are you in pain? So if you have body aches, muscle pain, you are fatigued, maybe you're falling on with the COVID-19, and it's a good idea to get tested. The third question is, how fast are those symptoms coming? Remember that COVID symptoms come in slowly and gradually. So if you were feeling great yesterday and you wake up feeling like if you were run over by a truck, then perhaps we're talking about something else, but not COVID. Then another question that happens that we listen to frequently is, do you have nausea or vomiting? Because if it's nausea and vomiting, perhaps it's the flu, but not the common cold, and perhaps not COVID-19. How's your cough? That's next question. COVID-19 is usually associated with a dry cough, whereas the strep throat or the pneumonia or even the flu are coughs that are productive. They have phlegm in them. So if your cough is dry, then perhaps it's COVID, get tested. If you have a productive cough after several days of a dry cough, perhaps now you're developing a complication of that COVID, and perhaps you have a pneumonia. So it would be a good idea to get tested. How long has the illness been? Just remember that COVID is longer than the flu or longer than the common cold. So if it's been there for more than 10 days, or if it's getting worse, then get tested. And finally, a question that doctors ask is, what are you taking for this, and is it working? If you usually take some kind of medication for your cough or for your common cold and it's not working, then it would be a good idea to get tested too.
All right, so a lot of good ideas there: duration, cough, the severity of it, fatigue. Doctor, I kind of want to switch things up a little bit, and the FDA is now limiting who can receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine due to rare blood clots. Can you tell us a bit more about why the FDA is doing this and how concerned people who have gotten the Johnson & Johnson vaccine should be?
Yes, thank you for the question. The first time that we heard about this was April 10 in the night last year. It was in the night, and I remember precisely because we had a clinic in Longmont where we applied more than 600 Johnson & Johnson vaccine that day. And then in the night, we saw it on the news, and on the next morning, we had to get all of these phone calls. Before Johnson & Johnson reported this side effect was reported in England or in Europe with the AstraZeneca vaccine that also produces this. And this complication can also happen in people who get COVID despite whatever vaccine they're getting. The virus can induce this. So what they're getting is something that's called thrombosis with thrombocytopenia. This means that their platelets are being recruited to produce blood clots. So when you measure the amount of platelets in blood, they're down, they're in low counts because they're being used to generate clots around the body. This is a very rare occurrence. It happens, it's happened in 60 people. 60 people have had this complication out of close to 18 million Johnson & Johnson vaccines that have been applied. And unfortunately, there's 9 deaths reported also with this circumstance. So what the FDA says is that if you're 18 or older, and this is the only vaccine that is available for you, or if you have some kind of a medical contraindication to receive another type of vaccine, maybe this is the best chance that you have. Now, people who received the vaccine in the past will not develop this in the future. I mean, this is something that happens in the first maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the vaccine. It's not going to stay there and then give you the complication years or months later.
Okay, well, thank you, doctor. And then as always, we want to know about the vaccine clinic that Servicios de la Raza is organizing for tonight and for the rest of this week.
Thanks. For several months now, we've been here Tuesdays in the afternoon because we've heard that people are not getting the vaccine because they don't have time off during a workday to go and get a vaccine. So we decided to open an afternoon evening clinic, and we're still here at Servicios de la Raza after 4 o'clock for people who want to come and get a vaccine. You don't need an appointment, but it's better if you call so we can be waiting for you, and the vaccines are free. Just come on and get vaccinated after work.
Well, doesn't get easier than that, doctor. Thank you so much. And if you have a question, either English or in Spanish, for Dr. Ricardo González-Fisher, please email me at chris.bianchi@9news.com, and I'll make sure it is answered. So thank you for joining us for this week's look at COVID-19 in the Hispanic community here in Colorado. Gracias a todos. Thanks to everyone, and we'll see you again here next week. Thanks, doctor.
Thank you, Chris.